Welcome to Guerilla Sports Off Court. I'm Liv Moods, and this is presented by Trusted American Mortgage. Trusted American salary-based mortgage consultants want to help you get into a better interest rate and lower your monthly payments. Just head to trustedamerican.com to see how they can help you save some money today.
Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
Hello and welcome to another Guerilla Sports Off Court. I'm Liv Moods. This is Brandon Krisztal, aka BK. We were live last night following the game against the Atlanta Hawks where Nikola Jokic proved yet again why he is the MVP of this league. I know it's a long season. There's a lot of time, BK, for that to change. A lot of other superstars in this league that could climb to the top of the MVP race. But right now, it's feeling pretty solid in it being Nikola Jokic's if he continues down this exact same path.
Yeah, I think that the issue will be if they finish really below fourth and maybe even below third, depending on who's ahead of them. But if SGA is leading his team to the best team in the West, if Donovan Mitchell's leading his team to the best record in the East. And so I think that that's going to hamper Joker's chances if we get to March, April, and the Nuggets are firmly middling the way they are now, or they're losing games you wouldn't think they'd lose, and they go win a big game.
Right.
But where they're hovering around spots 6 to 10, as opposed to clearly one of the best teams in the West, despite how great he's playing, I think voter fatigue plus the fact that it's not enough, and I understand what the numbers would be if he weren't on the floor and how efficient he is and how his plus minus is almost always still positive, even though his team certainly is losing games. And so I think that honestly is going to be the biggest thing holding him back will be team success. And I understand the most valuable player. It goes to the question of, are they the most valuable player in the league or are they the most valuable player to their team? And I think that that's part of it as well, is that unless your numbers are so crazy and his are close.
Right.
If your team isn't as good as everyone thinks they should be, you're valuable to your team. We get it. But to the league, you're not the most valuable player. So there's no reason to think that he won't be in that conversation if he stays on this track and be at the top of the list. It's just, I think that team success will ultimately be the downfall of why he won't win a fourth, not because his numbers aren't as amazing as they are now all year long.
Yeah. I think the next conversation that we've got to get into, because after we did our post-game show, I saw a few comments and a lot of frustrations. Of course, this Nuggets season is a very frustrating season. Even this early in the season, it's feeling very frustrating because it feels like an emotional roller coaster. 1 second, we're watching true Denver Nuggets basketball, which feels virtually untouchable when you've got a Nikola Jokic that's playing the way that he's playing, and then you've got an Aaron Gordon that's finally back and healthy, and Russell Westbrook in the mix has been a really pleasant surprise for many fans that are watching this team play. While there are a lot of frustrations with the team and how they are playing basketball right now, I think more than that, based on reading comments, based on having some DMs flow my direction, I'm seeing that there's maybe more frustrations here around Calvin Booth. I know we talk a lot about Coach Malone and a lot of people calling for him to be fired. Firing Coach Malone is not going to fix any of the issues they currently have on this team. Now, having a conversation about some of the off-season moves and the players in which this Nuggets team have lost based on decisions that Calvin Booth has made for the Denver Nuggets, that's another conversation, and I understand there's a lot of frustration there. So, BK, let's play hypotheticals here. If we don't get a better version of Jamal Murray, he's still riddled with injury, we're still uncertain about what he's going to bring to the team this season. Is there a world where Calvin Booth can right some of his wrongs and make some changes with this team that would help Nuggets fans maybe sleep easier at night?
Yes and no. I think that there are moves that can be made, but they're going to come with a cost, both a financial cost and personnel. Obviously, you're not making moves that aren't going to involve you moving on from players and acquiring new players. But because of the deal that Jamal signed, if he's the person you're looking to move, you have to find somebody that's not only willing to take him, they're going to have to have other assets that you probably want to keep. People like Julian Strother or Christian Brown or Peyton Watson. And I'm not saying that these are names that the other teams are demanding. I'm just using common sense. So, yeah, we'll take Jamal, but we also want this player, and we want your lone first-round draft pick that you have the ability to trade right now, and whatever second-rounders you can throw in. And if you want to throw in Zeke Najee, fine. But that's why the idea, and that may not all work financially. I'm just saying the way a team's going to look at it.
They're going to need more than just Jamal Murray.
And when you talk about that idea that it could be De'Aaron Fox for Jamal Murray, that's not going to be a straight-up trade. So you're going to be giving up a bunch.
You don't think it could be?
If I'm Sacramento, why am I making that trade?
I don't know. But crazier things have happened.
Well,
so,
but I remember going back, and this is going way back, but, working on the radio here in Denver, and I remember when people weren't happy with where Carmelo was, they'd be like, well, trade Carmelo Anthony. Okay, great. What are you getting back for him?
Right.
And I understand they ultimately did trade Carmelo, and we understand how that all went down. Or they're like, trade Kenyon Martin. Okay. That's easy to say. What am I getting back that's going to be close? Because the idea of a trade, I understand somebody often wins a trade and somebody often loses a trade.
Right.
That happens probably more times than it doesn't. But
of course.
The idea of the trade is to help both teams for whatever reason. You go back to Christian McCaffrey being traded from Carolina. He was traded for, I think, a second, a third, and a fourth. Whereas if you added up those points, it added up to like a back-end first-round pick. So the Panthers got premium picks. The Niners obviously got a premium player. But when you're trying to trade players straight up, it almost never happens unless – I feel like the only sport that happens in the most is hockey.
Yeah.
You need a goalie. You have an extra defenseman. Okay, you're sending a defenseman. You're getting a goalie back. But it almost never happens where player for player in football and basketball gets traded and both teams are like, yeah, good. We got rid of our problem. And I don't know if De'Aaron Fox is a problem. But if his name's showing up in rumors, is that coming out of Sacramento or is that just Nuggets fans and wishful thinking?
I'm sure a lot of this is wishful thinking. And if you want to continue wishfully thinking here, I think there does have to be an understanding with Nuggets fans across the board that while, yes, it does sound like a really great idea to just trade Jamal Murray, right? He's not doing what he needs to be doing for this team. And in so many ways, some people may feel like he's actually negatively affecting this team, even if he's not playing. Maybe there's an attitude thing there. Maybe there's a culture problem. Maybe the team is having a hard time seeing eye to eye with Jamal Murray right now. These are assumptions I'm making. But to the people that just say, trade Jamal Murray, in a perfect world, yeah, if you could get a trade for Jamal Murray, who's not really clicking with this team right now and not doing what he needs to be doing, it's a great idea. But I think the bigger problem that we're going to run into is what team right now is watching Jamal Murray play and wants to trade for him? Is he better than what they've currently got? And in so many ways, you could probably say, no, he's not. He's not really playing he's not even maintaining the version of himself that I think got him paid in the first place. And I think the hope is always that when you pay a player a max contract, not only are you rewarding them for what they've done for you in the past, which in this case is a pretty big thing, a 2023 championship run that was very, very dependent on what Jamal Murray was able to bring to this team. Not only is that max contract a reward, but the expectation is that he at least maintains that level of greatness, if not exceeds it. So what makes Jamal Murray right now attractive to other teams, to those of you that just want to trade him? I don't know if there's a team out there right now that's watching him play and going, we could really use a guy like that.
When you look at why, and so just doing some quick reading, De'Aaron Fox turned down the contract extension knowing he's going to be eligible for a Supermax after being All-Star, All-NBA, all of that. But he may ask for a trade. So there's a scenario out there where people thought maybe the Heat makes sense and they're going to send assets and Jaime Jaquez perhaps. Or are there other teams out there? But De'Aaron Fox, because they add DeMar DeRozan but still have a slow start, that De'Aaron Fox is like, I've done all I can for this franchise, for this city. Please get me out of here. But even still, Jamal Murray's not an attractive enough piece.
No.
And every other GM in the league is watching the Nuggets. So it's not that they wouldn't take Jamal Murray, but they're not going to give up a premium player for Jamal Murray. They're going to give up assets too. Yeah, we'll take Jamal Murray. Here's a first and some seconds, or whatever it may be, and players you've never heard of. And so I think that if you think Jamal's a problem, and that's certainly a fair assumption right now. If you think Jamal's a problem, great. Identifying the problem is one thing. what's a viable solution. Not what would you do in pie in the sky if you're playing 2K and you can just trade Jamal to the Hornets and get LaMelo Ball here.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Whatever it may be. And I'm not saying you're trading for LaMelo Ball. But could LaMelo Ball be out in Charlotte? Could there be a 3-team trade as part of it? There's all scenarios are at play. I just don't know if Michael Malone is as down on Jamal Murray as the rest of us. But maybe he is, and we're just never going to find out.
But why wouldn't Coach Malone be down on Jamal Murray right now? What are we hanging on to? Yes, I understand what he has done for this Nuggets team in the past. I understand what he can be for this Nuggets team, but that's not what he is right now. And how many more bad first halves or, things have to come up in this season before Coach Malone just makes that decision to say, hey, as much as I love Jamal, as much as expensive as Jamal is for us right now, you've got to play your 5 best players. And I just don't put Jamal Murray in the 5 best players category right now. Can he be? Hell, he could be the 2nd best player on this team. I don't think anyone's surpassing what Nikola Jokic is bringing. But we know Jamal Murray is capable of being the 2nd best player and most reliable player on this team for the Denver Nuggets. But that's just not what we're getting right now. So at what point... I understand that Calvin Booth has put Coach Malone in a bad position this season in the way that he has handled off seasons. I understand that. And I also understand that firing Coach Malone is not going to solve the issues that the Nuggets have this season. But I do think there are things that Coach Malone can do a better job at, whether it's rotation of these players. There's times where I look up at the screen and I'm watching a game and there's a good 5 minutes left. They're down by 12, 13 points, and we've got our bench guys in. I understand Nikola Jokic is tired, but those are games that they could still stay alive in. And based on the rotation, it feels like we're throwing in the towel. So there are things that Coach Malone can do better as it pertains to rotating these players. And that's one thing that I think he could do better. The other thing that I think he could do better is just sending a message to Jamal Murray. We talked about this in a very joking fashion, but when you're a little kid and all you get is a little tiny slap on the wrist, you're likely going to make that same mistake again because there wasn't a true punishment. Now, punishment is such a strong word because every player in the NBA has ebbs and flows. They have good games, they have bad games. They don't always perform the way that they would hope that they would perform. But what we're starting to see with Jamal is not just a bad game here and there. It's a total lack of consistency, accountability, and just a version of him that we're still trying to get used to because we're not used to seeing a Jamal Murray that's not really showing hustle and effort and energy. And I'll be the first to say Jamal Murray hasn't been the best defensive player that the Nuggets have ever had, but we've definitely seen him in prior seasons have a lot more effort as it pertains to defense. And so in a perfect world, you don't just up and trade Jamal Murray because I still think that there's something in there. He still got it. I refuse to believe that the fall off is this bad. But I think if we end up getting to a place where Jamal Murray, and this is something we won't know, this is something that the locker room will know, Coach Malone will know, the players will know. If it gets to the point where Jamal just simply doesn't want to be here and he just doesn't care, you can't force athletes to care. If it gets to that point, I think what Coach Malone can do is send a message. You bench Jamal, you start Russ. Because right now, when you start Russ, I like the first half of basketball games a whole lot better for this Denver Nuggets team when Russ is the starter over Jamal. And that's just the simple facts.
So you brought this idea up a few times, and you brought it up in the postgame show.
Beating a dead horse.
No, but as you were bringing it up, and looking back at the quotes from last night, this was happening in real time with what Michael Malone said, and then Joker said something that I think you'll find interesting. So Michael Malone said he appreciated that Joker was vocal to the team yesterday morning, coming off that loss. And he said that he got on guys to speak up. And so it was good to hear Nikola talk and then to follow it up with the performance like he did, obviously is icing. Joker was asked about the reaction. And he said, a reaction in my country where I'm coming from, after this kind of stretch, you're going to get a paycheck that's a little bit less than usual, he said, chuckling. And that's true. Having friends that played overseas, I had a friend that played in Russia. Their team, for lack of a better term, was owned by a Russian mob boss. And when they would win, everybody on the team would get a bag of cash because who knows exactly how his money was going that day.
Right.
And the player of the game would get an even bigger bag of cash. So Joker said that chuckling, but contracts may not mean as much because you're not going to end up in court over a basketball contract like you would in the NBA if all of a sudden Jamal Murray or Michael Porter or Nikola Jokic's checks were a couple $1 million less than they should have been, or whatever that number is, that's going to force their agents to get involved in the league and the PA and all that. So that just doesn't happen over there. But then he said, maybe that's what we need to do. Maybe a little motivation that way. What's the name of it? Being on the bench. I think that's really good motivation too.
Is Jokic saying the same thing I've been saying? I mean, he didn't call Jamal out by name, but if he insinuated that in his country you take a pay cut when you're not performing, and or what do you call it? He said benching. Yeah, I really think we're starting to enter that era, and I would like to think that if Jokic starts to feel that way, Coach Malone will also start to feel that way, because Jokic and Malone, based on what we know and what we've seen, have a very great relationship. I think Malone trusts Nikola Jokic a lot. There's no reason not to. That's kind of his go-to guy. And I think they, in so many ways, speak the same language a lot, because we've also seen Jokic in so many ways kind of coaching the team mid-game, down to the wire, in final minutes, the final stretch of big games. Jokic is out there doing a lot of coaching. So I think him and Malone are mutually understand each other and have enough respect for one another that I think if Jokic starts saying pay cuts and benching, I think we know who he's talking about in this moment. And I'm hoping that Coach Malone, maybe that's what it's going to take, is Nikola Jokic, who is a man of few words, starts to speak up and express frustration. Maybe that's what it's going to take to get Jamal Murray on the bench and force him to start earning his starting minutes back. I get it. He's got the contract. He's a great player. He's done really great things. But I think there's a world where he needs to earn some of those minutes back and prove to this team that he's not only worth the money, but worth the minutes.
So he was asked what he said to the team yesterday morning. And he said, teams score 125 points on us every night. So I think we're the worst in the league, probably, meaning defensively, they're playing the worst in the league. And then he adds this. So this is beyond Jamal. This is, I think, calling out every single player, because we do know Jamal's not the only one playing poor defense at times. For sure. Or not communicating. He said, look, when I was coming off the bench, when I was playing small minutes, my goal was when I sit on the bench, I'm going to be so tired I can't breathe. So I can't just give you 100%, those 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever. So I can just give you 100% for those limited minutes. So that is beyond Jamal. That is a reminder to Peyton Watson and Julian Strawther and Hunter Tyson and Zeke Naji. Probably less to Russell Westbrook, because he just know it.
And less to AG, because he's been injured.
And certainly less to guys like Christian Brown and Michael Porter and AG, that saying, maybe being benched would be a good thing. Because we understand that money being what it is, it's obviously, it changes who you are as a player, the way everybody looks at, for the most part. Some people are different, some people are outliers. But when you are these guys at the end of the bench, and you are Hunter Tyson, you are Zeke Naji, who does have money now on that 4-year, $32 million deal. You're Peyton Watson, you're Julian Strawther. You want to Hooper's hoop. That's the saying. And I've heard Jamal say that. Hooper's hoop. That's what he does in the offseason. He plays basketball. He's like, Hooper's hoop. Although I think he does do some UFC training now. But you want to play. Maybe you're at the end of your career. If you're DeAndre Jordan, I don't think DeAndre Jordan is going to the game every night. I'm not saying he's not ready, but I don't know if DeAndre Jordan his night's ruined if he doesn't play.
No, but that man sure stays nice and warm, doesn't he? If you guys have never been to a Denver Nuggets game or watched a Nuggets game from an altitude sports angle where they are giving you kind of the inside look at all things Nuggets, that man, DeAndre Jordan, it's got to be the funniest thing in the world. The way he stays stretched and ready to go for any minute. It may even be 3 minutes of playing time, but he will be ready for it. This man is running suicides. He's got a resistance band above his knees. He's doing some hip flexor workouts. DeAndre Jordan may never see a minute in some games, but he will be warm. He will be ready. And whenever his name is called, he's ready to jump off that bench with the most excitement and energy and get out there and do what he needs to do. And I think that is the type of players that we need to have them use their voice more, right? We need players on this Nuggets team that maybe don't have perfect games. Does anyone really have a perfect game? No. But it's the energy that you bring to every single game in this very long season. If I had to show up and give 100% physical effort 82 different times, including travel and practice and everything, I want to be surrounded by people that are lifting me up, rooting for me, pumping me up, bringing the energy, keeping the energy high. And I don't think it's wrong to say that based on how Jamal Murray not only plays, but talks in post-game pressers and does or doesn't join an on-court huddle in the middle of a game, or does or doesn't travel with the team when he's injured. It just feels like you're around that type of guy. And I think it's normal to feel like he maybe sucks the energy out of a room, out of a locker room, out of a road trip, whatever it may be. But we've got to have more vocal leaders that are willing to. I talked last show when we were sitting at the desk about the fact that losing KCP may have been more than just losing the 3-and-D guy. We lost an accountability coach and a glue guy for this team. And so we need moments like this from Jokic, where Jokic is very honest and transparent about what needs to change and who needs to step up. And hell, if it takes him name dropping people, might be that time.
And Michael Porter Jr., who also spoke after the loss Saturday in DC, spoke after the win in Atlanta, and he talked about this being a good starting point, coming out playing defense from the jump, playing with intensity, trying to work their way into the game rather than playing from behind. And he said, I think when you can get out to starts and be in front of teams, you can do a good job sustaining, but we've got to come out and play like that from the jump. So tonight was a good start. To be playing kind of as bad as we've been playing and still have a winning record is a blessing, because it easily could have been the other way.
Yeah. And, I don't want to do the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, because we'll never actually know this. But I think so much of the Nuggets' ability to dominate the Hawks was Russell Westbrook's ability to slow down Trae Young. I mean, Trae Young is the Hawks in so many ways. That's the guy you worry about when you're facing the Atlanta Hawks. They may have a roster that's riddled with injury, but when Trae Young's on the floor, you know that there could be a very competitive basketball game in front of you. So I think so much of what we saw against the Hawks was effort defensively, which was refreshing because we don't get that very often. And really, the biggest change that was made in that game from obviously against the Wizards, we didn't have Jamal Murray there. We also didn't have Aaron Gordon in the lineup. So we know that a large change to the Hawks game was having AG back. That was a very large change. And we know that his impact is super crucial for this team. But from a defensive perspective, we've seen some bad defensive performances by the Nuggets when Aaron Gordon is there. And to me, the biggest change was that our starting point guard looked different. And I liked the change. I liked the way they looked in that first half. It was one of the most dominant first halves that they've had this season.
Yeah, when you score 71 points in the first half and you're up by 23?
I'm
not great at math, but 71-48, right? Does that sound right? That's a good thing. And I think you're right, because Trae Young finished tonight 6 of 13, but started 0 for 5.
0 for 5, which is huge.
Well, because when your best player isn't doing what you expect him to do, you know that it's going to be a tougher night, and that's exactly what the Nuggets made it. So what was interesting, and we went through some of these numbers last night, but the Nuggets were 12 of 17 in the first half from 3, and you'll take that all day. And twice on Sundays, as yesterday was Sunday, as the saying goes. But then they were over 10 in the second half. But because they'd shot so in the first half, they didn't need to make those threes in the second half. They have plenty of offense. Now, they don't score 141 very often, but I mentioned it too, 43 assists. If you're north of 30 assists, you're going to be in really good shape most nights. If you're north of 40 assists, you're going to win probably just about every game. There can't be too many games, and I alluded to that, but where a team has 40 assists and loses.
And who facilitates the offense? The point guard.
Sort of. On this team, it's...
Yeah, I was going to say, we have a center as well that does a pretty great job of facilitating the offense, so we're kind of maybe a little different and unique in our own way. But again, you allow Nikola Jokic a better opportunity at having 50-point performances and being an offensive machine, because let's be completely transparent here. There's very few people in the NBA that can stop Nikola Jokic. There's very few people that have an answer for Nikola Jokic. Why? Nikola Jokic is 5 steps ahead of everybody, and half of his shots, the last time I said this, actually, I got a lot of heat for it. Half of Nikola Jokic's shots are kind of ugly. I don't mean that with disrespect, because they go in. So really, are they that ugly? No, but they don't look like your traditional. I mean, he'll do things in the spur of the moment, last second flash, and you're like, no way that goes in, and it goes in. So he has a very unique style of game that it's hard to prepare for, because it looks different every night. He's got these awkward over the head 3-point half court logo shots that go in. It's like, how do you stop that? You can't, because you can't prepare. He doesn't have that perfect clean wind up. It's just like, I'm here, turn, buzzer. Oh, there it goes. It's in. Like, that's Nikola Jokic's game. And that's a very tough game to defend and prepare for. But when you've got a Russell Westbrook that I think plays a little bit of a little more selfless basketball than Jamal. I'm not saying that Jamal is a selfish player, but he can play a selfish game. And we know that if you watch the Nuggets. I'm not saying anything out of the ordinary or being a hater. I'm just saying what it is. Russell Westbrook plays a little more selfless, and it gives Nikola Jokic opportunities to have these insane 50-plus point performance games. He really could have had 50 last night. And so there just seems to be a little bit more cohesion there when Russ is a starter in comparison to Jamal. Now, is that how it's going to remain the remainder of the season? I want Jamal to prove me wrong. I've said this every single show. I want to be dead wrong. And actually, this is a really great time for me to call attention to a time that I was wrong, because this clip, I was on the Guerilla Sports YouTube looking through all of our old videos, saw a short that we had posted from a episode we had probably before the season even started, where I said, Russell Westbrook is not a starter. I think I might have been a little wrong on that. My point in that video was me saying that if Russell Westbrook is willing and able to come onto this team and run that second unit and come off of the bench, I think this Nuggets team is in a really great spot. I was worried about that conflict of maybe Russ feels like I'm entitled to being a starter, which I wasn't super worried about that because he had been a bench guy on his previous teams. But hell, I think we're getting to a place now where he just might be a starter. He is putting the Nuggets in better. The Nuggets are going into halftime in a better position to win games when Russ is the starter and Jamal is not. That is a factual observation. If that hurt your feelings to hear it, boo-hoo, because that's the truth.
We'll see what happens Friday when they play the Clippers, and they now have a week off, 5 days off between games. If Jamal plays, does he start? Or you can at least get away with him coming off the bench in that game because he's been dinged up. And you're like, we got to keep an eye on your minutes.
Yeah.
So for the sake of the rotation, we're going to start Russell Westbrook and then figure it out from there. If they lose to the Clippers and Jamal starts and plays a normal workload and Norman Powell goes nuts again.
God, please stop Norman Powell. For the love of God.
James Harden was dinged up and missed last night's game. But they also have the same week off. This is going to be a very light week. If you're an NBA fan, not a great week to cheer for your favorite teams because of the NBA Cup. They only left more days and just a few holes that needed to be filled. So, like, I was trying to set my fantasy lineup and just kind of giving you an idea, Liv, as far as nobody's playing tonight. So you're gonna have a couple games tomorrow, but each team has one game this week, maybe two. The Nuggets are an example of a team that have one game.
Yeah, on Friday.
They play Friday. The Clippers have one game. The teams that are in the Cup, I guess, have two games. So Boston has two games. OKC, the 8 teams that are still in the Cup. But it's going to be a light week, giving Jamal time to recover. If they struggle, I'll be there post-game on Friday. Maybe I'm the person that asks, do you have to take a hard look at switching up your starting lineup, or how much consideration have you given? You have to ask it the right way, because if you say, have you given any consideration to benching Jamal and starting Russell Westbrook? If you say, have you, you might just get no. So you have to kind of ask a broader, hey, what would it look like? Or you don't want to give a yes-no answer possibility. So
yeah. You got to be strategic with how you bring it up.
And I may not be the first person to ask, because I'm never the first person to ask a question. I let the beat writers that are there every day take the first crack at it. If Katie Wingy's in the press conference, she'll certainly jump ahead of me most times. But I don't have a problem asking a question when I'm in there. So we'll see. And hopefully this time, watching his team both lose and win without him, but win convincingly in their biggest win of the year and most points. Jamal's watching the game and not highlights from the UFC fight, and sees what his team's doing without him and what they're doing with Russ.
So,
and will they make that change?
Here's something important to remember, folks, because oftentimes, I take myself back to when Kobe passed away. It was like, what? Like, I think we think these athletes are invincible in so many ways. Like, they're these superheroes. They're untouchable. No athlete on planet Earth is above pride, ego, jealousy, envy. And there may be some emotions that Jamal has about Russell Westbrook being here, not just being here, but outperforming him. When given the opportunity and Russell Westbrook is a starter, he is outperforming Jamal Murray as a starting point guard for this team. That's not me being a hater. That's me being factual. So if that hurts your feelings, maybe watch a few more Nuggets games because you'll see what I'm talking about here. These athletes are not above those emotions. There could be a world where Jamal Murray doesn't really like the fact that Russell Westbrook plays in his starting position and is outperforming him. There could be a world where Jamal Murray does have a bad attitude about Russell Westbrook connecting better with Jokic this season. Now, what I would like to see is him turn some of those emotions that I'm assuming he has. I don't know this. I would like to see him turn some of those emotions into motivation. We're not seeing that part yet. We're just seeing a frustrated, just out of character version of Jamal Murray right now that I am waiting for him to go, you know what, F this. We've seen Jamal Murray be villainized, and when he does become the villain, he pops off. So I want that. I want him to see Russell Westbrook cooking and seeing Russell Westbrook become a better 1-2 punch with Jokic than he is with Jokic right now in this moment, and use that as motivation and prove everybody wrong. But it's almost like that should have happened already, and it hasn't. So now in my brain, I'm like, he just doesn't care. I think that's a fair assumption to make based on the context clues here. He just doesn't care. Because if someone walked into the Guerilla Sports studio right now and said, "Oh, I actually think for today, just to test things out, I'm going to be the new host of the off-court show," I'd be like, "I beg your finest pardon? Says who?" If that person was given the opportunity and lapped me in content and did a whole better job than I did
And
in running a show,
9 Emmy Awards.
trust me when I
Even if they're
say
not as young as you.
I'm going home. I'm putting foot to gas, I-25 headed south, and I'm going home and I'm doing research and I'm finding ways to be a better version of myself. Now, I also, again, some of my frustration simply comes from the fact that I am always motivated to be a better version of myself. It's how God made me. I can't help it. I'm not saying it as this huge flex because sometimes I go too far and I forget to congratulate myself and give myself a second to be proud of what I've done. I'm always looking for the next, what can I do to be better than I was yesterday? And so for me, when I see athletes that are making so much money, it's frustrating to me that they don't want to be a better version of themselves than they were the day before. And so some of that's just me personally looking at this going, damn, if I were Jamal, I'd be looking at Westbrook going, all right, I love this. This is good, but you just wait. Let me turn on the burners here and go crazy. But we're just not seeing that with him right now. So the assumption is that he doesn't care. And I want to be wrong about that, but that's just how it looks to people.
Yeah, and every person on planet Earth is different. But Jamal certainly has had plenty of success on the court, especially in big playoff moments. He won a championship, and he has gotten paid. If you got whatever the equivalent of $200 million is in our industry, which isn't $200 million, but look at the biggest deal. Stephen A. Smith is making $20 million. I'm sure we could go through broadcasters on the Today Show that are making north of $10 million. If someone were to come to you and give you that, you're going to react one of two ways. Like, yeah, I earned it, so I'm just going to kind of keep doing my thing. And if that works with, they're paying me to be me. Or there's the other person, I guess you could go three ways. You could just totally shut it down and be terrible, but I don't think that most people in that position, once they reach a level of success, they're going to be like, well, I've made it now, so I'm just going to take the money and mail it in so they have to fire me. Or you can say, I want to prove that I belong here, that I'm going to make the contract. I'm going to show you why I'm worth this contract.
But do you know why Jamal's not doing that? Because in Jamal's brain, his job is not threatened. That's the problem. That is the problem right now. Jamal is not going to change because he doesn't think he has to. If he shows up with a piss poor attitude and his threes aren't falling and he's showing no effort defensively, he's not worried. Because in what world in Jamal's brain is he losing his starting position? And that's exactly why he needs to. That is exactly why Coach Malone needs to say, you know what, Jamal, typically we'd be okay with this. And that's why you're continuing down this path. But until he's punished, and I know that sounds like a crazy word, like he's a little kid that needs to go to timeout, but until there is some type of punishment for his lack of effort and showing up for this team, he's going to keep doing it. He's rich no matter what. He could have a 10-point game, get his starting minutes. His job doesn't feel threatened at all by Westbrook until we start him over Jamal when Jamal's healthy. His job doesn't feel threatened in the slightest. And guess what? He still wakes up tomorrow morning and he's making a lot of effing money, and that's not going to change. So until they start sending him a message, which in my opinion, the best way to do that is to start Westbrook over Jamal. Until they do that, he's going to continue to do this. Why wouldn't he?
We did see him get benched in the game in the Olympics for Canada, for Team Canada. That's where we saw him get benched. Essentially, they wanted to go defense. They went Lou Dort instead of him. There's no world where anybody thinks that Lou Dort is a better all-around basketball player than Jamal Murray. But we know Lou Dort plays hard on defense, and that's what the coach of the Canadian team felt like they needed more than Jamal's offense to go with SGA. And yes, Lou Dort and SGA play together, so there's that continuity as well. But I'm saying on a really big stage, he has already been benched. Does that make it easier for him to accept the benching? And we'll see over time. But it's happened once now on a grand stage that if he's not pissed off about it, which would, I think, just piss Nuggets fans off even more, basketball fans even more, he's like, yeah, well, I've been benched before. So I guess we'll see if and when it happens, how it all goes down and how he responds.
Yeah, absolutely. And really quickly, you guys, if you're in the market for a new car this season, it is the holiday season. I don't know if you feel like really spoiling your partner or your parent or your kid is turning 16 and they need a new car. We've got our friends over at Landmark Lincoln. They have been the Colorado's trusted dealer, a Lincoln dealer since 1911. If you head to the corner of Broadway and Bellevue today, you can see why they have been Colorado's trusted Lincoln dealer since 1911, or just head over to landmarklincoln.com to see what kind of cars they've got and any deals that they can offer you. You could qualify for no payments for up to 90 days with our friends over there. So make sure you check that out. BK, before we get out of here, any thoughts that you have about maybe the Clippers game? We will have another episode of Off Court between now and the Friday game. I will be unavailable to help cover the Friday game, and I'm not sure what BK's doing.
I got you covered.
This was one that got flexed and added to the schedule. I already had things going on. Huge plans. But we will still have some type of coverage for you. But then we will have our show again on Thursday where we can break down the game. Maybe there will be a little bit more of an updated injury report by then. We'll see if Jamal has been practicing this week. We'll see how AG's body is feeling this week. So we'll have another episode same time Thursday for Off Court. But anything you want to say maybe about the Hawks game last night or any opinions that you've got right now before we get out of here?
I think we've covered it, and I think we'll have a chance Thursday. We'll have then seen the team practicing.
Yep.
Maybe tomorrow we'll get access to them, but I don't know. It feels like Wednesday will be the first time we get to get over there and see where things are, see where things stand with Jamal, start to pick Michael Malone's brain a little bit about how he's going to handle this if it's a problem. And if we ask about Joker's comments, because those obviously came after Michael Malone talked, is he going to be quick to say, oh, that applies to everybody who's not playing, that if you're on the bench, you should want to be on the court? Not Michael Malone's way too savvy to be like, yeah, Joker was definitely calling out Jamal and no one else. He'll downplay it. I do want to ask you this question, though. Liv, how would you like to get through the holidays without making your mortgage payment? Because
I would love it.
You can go to trustedamerican.com to see how they can help you refinance your home and not have to make any payments until February. Who doesn't love that with the holidays upon us? Trusted American salary-based mortgage consultants want to help you get into a better interest rate and lower your monthly payments. And right now they will cover the cost of your appraisal. It's about a $650 value. So go to trustedamerican.com. Again, that's trustedamerican.com, and check out our friends at Trusted American Mortgage.
Love it. It's an expensive time of the year. BK, really quick, have you since the last time I talked to you, which was last week, have you done any more Christmas shopping? Because I've done zero. I said last show I hadn't shopped at all.
That was Friday. I think I've done some window shopping. I don't think I've purchased anything.
I haven't either, and I do this every year. I think about it, and I'm like, okay, let's just get it out of the way so I'm not stressing at the last second. But here I am, still stressing at the last second. I need to get some stuff done. So hopefully this will be my week, later in the week, to get some shopping done.
I'm pulling for you.
Fingers crossed. And thank you guys for being here. We've got quite a few of you live watching with us. So thank you. We will be live again, same time, same place on Thursday.
Fingers crossed we might have somebody special promoting a new book about people's favorite player, but I don't want to give any more away if it doesn't happen.
Yes.
But that is in the works.
And you won't be with me on Thursday?
Why not?
Oh, I thought you said that at one point.
No.
I can't keep up, you guys.
It's hard to
I'm
keep
so
up.
sorry. There's a lot going on, but we will be. We usually film from home on Thursdays, but if in a perfect world, if nobody's using the studio and we can film here, we will be here at the desk talking with you guys. Let us know how you guys feel about this setup. We're doing a couple of different things here in the Guerilla Sports Studio. Very exciting things. We've got a lot of really cool things happening here. But if you guys like this setup as much as I do, we'll keep using it. I think we have a lot of fun. And of course, we'll keep you covered on Friday, although it won't be me. Friday after the game, we'll have you covered for another post-game live, I would imagine. And yeah, we'll be in touch with you guys. Much love. Thank you for being here. This has been another episode of Guerilla Sports Off Court presented by Trusted American Mortgage. Head to trustedamerican.com and we will see you guys on Thursday. Same time, same place for another episode of Off Court. See ya.